Well, I'm now joined by Jensen, who is Vice President of the Internet of Things Group at Intel and is the General Manager of Intel's retail division. Joe, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Happy to.
We've heard an amazing amount so far at the World Retail Congress about the way in which technology in one form or another is revolutionizing retail and the retail model. From your perspective, from maybe a helicopter view to start with, and then we'll delve into some of those technologies, what do you sense and feel and know is happening?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we see is that people say data is king, and I actually think it's not about data, it's really about the insights. And retailers in general are swimming in data. And I think the biggest complaint we get is, we just had a conversation just before this on the amount of data. And it's not about data, it's really about how do I get those valuable insights that will help improve the customer experience and really improve my operations. And I think in general, internet retailers have lived and died by data and their ability to get those insights. It's all they have. They don't have stores, they don't have staff to give the experience, customers can't experience the product. All they have is the data. And so they've really developed and honed that skill. Physical retailers have had all these other assets in the past, and what they haven't really honed is that skill on how to go turn data into insights.
And from a technology perspective, there are so many tools now that you can use in order to cut and slice and dice the data, create the data in the first place. I sense here that there is no lack of what shiny object you can start to develop, but actually people are looking for a bit of direction. Where should we concentrate our resources? Where should we concentrate our efforts with limited human resources and financial resources? What's your perspective on that dilemma?
I think that's a really good question. I think you can't boil the ocean, and there's so many spaces where you could work on it. First thing I would say is look at your operations and see where do you have gaps. Is it really in customer experience? Is it in operations? Across retail, inventory distortion or inaccurate inventory is over $1 trillion a year of missed profits. So that's by far the biggest problem in retail. We like to think about root cause. And if you look at dissatisfaction with shoppers in stores, one of the things that comes up most often is out of stock. You come into the store, you see an item that you're interested in, you like it, they create demand like they should with merchandising. You go try to find the item for you, and they don't have your size in stock. And you go from I didn't know I wanted it, I got excited, got a little bit of excitement, hey, I'm excited about this item. You go to find it, you create a disappointment. Well, what's the net outcome for that customer? You created a dissatisfaction. And so we think inventory distortion is big from didn't get to sell something, but we think it also is actually driving, and one of the key factors, driving that traffic down in the stores. Because if you go to a store repeatedly and they're out of stock, are you going to keep going? You're going to subconsciously, You'll shift your shopping to some place where they're not out of stock. So we think out of stocks is one of the big areas that retailers ought to be thinking about. How do they try to improve operations?
Now, one of the things that is sort of bubbling under, and you make reference to some of the, I suppose maybe in the past we might have called pure play internet players, the use of the technology that they have. Camera technology in one form or another. The fact that cameras are getting smaller, processing power is being able to take the data out, multiple usage of various different cameras and facial recognition and compute powers. You put all that together and suddenly pictures can play a very important part in the way in which digital retailing takes place. What are you seeing in this area? Who's doing what?
Yeah, I think first of all, camera technology in China, by far they own and lead that market. Not just the cameras, but the computer vision technology, the AI technologies, and kind of state-of-the-art processing of images to get insights. By far and away, China's leading that. What we see in application there, consumers embrace it. Shopping where you're recognized as you come in the store as a loyal shopper, embraced by consumers. Being able to go use that as access control, use it to make purchases, to validate purchases. Very, very broad deployment, and it's in infancy right now. If we look at it, kind of step back to U.S. and Europe, where people are a bit more shy around cameras.
Is it shy about cameras or shy about privacy?
Privacy, right? But I think the idea is that I'm being recorded, I'm being tracked, and And we've been a big advocate of using camera technology, but only using it in a way that's totally anonymous. And what that means is, you'd never record a video stream, you'd never pass that video up to the cloud where God knows what's going to happen to it. It'd be more a matter of what is happening with a shopper in the store right now. What is their pattern of movement through the store? Hey, what age or gender are they? Well, why would I want to know that? I'm in my mid-50s as a male. When I walk into a shopping mall, it's unlikely I'm going to buy a prom dress. Having a poster for a prom dress that I see when I walk by, it's possible, but it's not likely. And it would be more effective if they could take a look at me anonymously and say, here's a male in his mid-50s. What might be interesting to a male in his mid-50s? And I think as a shopper, my experience would be better because I would be seeing things that are more relevant to me. Be less noise, less clutter from my perspective. Pull that a step closer into the store now. As I'm walking into the store, don't show me the prom dress. Show me something that you have in stock that you could sell to me. I'm a large size guy. If you have plenty of raincoats, but they're all small and medium, don't show me a raincoat because you don't want to create that dissatisfaction. The old adage always is sell what's on the truck, sell what's on the shelf. And if you could use that technology to better kind of offer me things,
which of course the internet players
it does it exquisitely, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the raison d'etre, I suppose.
Yeah, if they're not showing me things that are out of stock, I don't know they're out of stock. Yeah. And so I think that there's an opportunity to supplement what happens in retail with technology, but I don't think technology replaces physical retail. Just like I don't think the internet is going to replace all physical shopping. Saw a great quote this week, and I think it was something to the effect of, physical retail isn't dead, boring retail is dead. And I think that really fits it. It's about the consumer first. It's about the consumer experience, and this whole idea that we're going to solve the out of stock problem with endless aisle. We saw one study where less than 1% of the shoppers saw an item that they liked. It was out of stock. They went and tracked down the staff to go help them look. The staff dug through the same shelf. Oh, I don't see it. Let me go check the back stock. You wait around while they check in back stock.
We all know that scenario.
And then, we don't have it here. Let me check on the computer and see if we have it in another store. And then, we do. We can ship it to your house. 1% of the shoppers who see something out of stock go through that entire journey because most shoppers aren't that vested in that item. You see it, hey, that's interesting. I like it. Maybe I want to try it on. They don't have it. They just move on, and they never get that. You never have the chance for staff to go bring that endless aisle concept. And so we think endless aisle is kind of a bad Band-Aid for a bad shopping experience.
Now. A more general question, Joe. We generally have been told for a while now that the Internet of Things is going to be the salvation to everything, and we're all going to be connected. How far are we from the reality of that now, Jay?
Yeah, the computer vision technology and kind of the related technologies around that, broadly call them artificial intelligence, is growing at such a rapid pace. A partner we met with in China just recently, they're building a vending machine for offices, and there's no mechanism in it at all. It's basically a cooler with an electronic lock. You walk up, it sees your face, unlocks, you reach in and take whatever you want. Using computer vision, they see what you take, and as soon as you close the door, it instantly bills you. They can actually build that computer vision AI-based vending machine for half the cost of a mechanical vending machine. And AI is in its infancy. And so you look at where that's going, the ability to kind of make that shopper experience really seamless. You look at an Amazon Go store, and there's a lot of concepts right now. Those are just early stage pilots. That technology will evolve so rapidly that I can imagine in 5-10 years, most shopping will be done that way.
So you really do envision a time where the checkout, which has always been the bane of both the customer and frankly the retailer's bane of their lives, will disappear.
Absolutely. I think that one of our primary theses is that it's all about consumer friction. It's all about the consumer, and consumers want to take that friction out of their life. Nobody likes the checkout process. Now, sure, maybe I want my item wrapped, I want it packaged up. That can still happen, but the process of paying. Look at Uber or Lyft and those services. A big part of why those have done so well is at the end of your ride, when you arrive in a cab, you'd like to jump out and go. But now there's this whole awkward transaction where you fish in your wallet for some cash, or you get a credit card out, and you're there for another 2 or 3 minutes closing the transaction. With the car service rides like Lyft and Uber, you arrive and you jump out, done. And then they've made that, taking that friction of a car ride out. And so I think you're going to see that proliferate really broadly across the consumer experiences.
Now, at Intel, you really are defining the future in the terms of the technology you're developing, the silicon that you're creating, and the advantages of that. Moore's law played a phenomenal part in the growth of computing power. Do you see a time when Moore's law is going to be exhausted, where actually you can't physically now improve performance?
I think that Moore's law, people tie Moore's law to silicon, and I think it's more the compute capability improving, and whether it's advances in the silicon technology, advances in microarchitecture, advances in the science behind how computing's done. I think those collectively add up to what we've experienced as Moore's law. And will silicon at some point no longer shrink? Yeah, but by then quantum computing or some other technology will be there. I'm a big believer that technology is on this kind of increasing pace, and I don't think there's anything man could really do to stop that.
So if you looked in your crystal ball for retailers, I don't know, let's say 5, maybe, let's be bold, 10 years ahead, do you see a very, very different processes, analytics being able to be applied for retailing?
Yeah, I think so.
With the new technologies being developed.
Yeah, take the Amazon Go Store concept that's been out a couple of years. Retailers, I think, tend to look at that as, wow, this consumer experience that's really advanced. How could I afford that? It's really unachievable. We actually step back and say, we think that what Amazon's really about there is not the experience. I think that's the sexy thing that got it some press, and there'll be a way to kind of drive some traffic. But the reality is they're going to take so much inefficiency out of the convenience store. We've seen data from retailers that they have 40% of fresh produce is waste and 80% of prepared foods are waste. Amazon's analytics and their predictive algorithms, they will know for that location exactly how much inventory to have all the time. They'll take that waste down to 5 or 10%. And they'll take a 2% gross margin business and make it 12, 14%. That's what those analytics are going to do. And I think that, for physical retailers, if you don't have a lot of math guys and you're not really investing in analytics and AI, it's time to get some.
Yes, I always say, if you're not hiring mathematicians,
it's not a good sign.
Yeah, I wish I'd stayed at the front of my maths class as opposed to being at the back. I don't think that was a particularly good strategy.
Yeah. Well, I think that you bring a point up, and at Intel, everybody we work with really were analytics, analytic thinkers, all logical engineering types. And that skill set has never really been one that excelled in physical retail. Physical retail is really about the human skills, soft skills, artistic, merchandising, all those things that engineers typically are terrible at. Well, if you go to online retail, they don't need any of those skills per se, right? There's some artistic in the website and whatnot, but a lot of math guys working on data. And I think the future of retail is you got to blend those skills together, and it can't be all one camp or can't be all the other. You've got to have all those skills in your operation.
I agree. I actually think that there's going to be a very interesting pairing now of a fantastic merchant who really understands and loves products and a fantastic data analyst. Put those two together, I think that's going to be a very potent force within retailers. And to me, that's the thing that's going to distinguish those people that are going to do well in the future versus those people who are going to find the future actually is not what they would like to see.
Yeah, I think this transition we're in with retail right now, it's an inflection point for sure, and I think we're going to see winners and losers over the next 5 years. Big winners and big losers. Walmart's acquisition of Jet, I'm looking at that very interested to see how that pans out. So far, Wall Street's rewarded them for that. I think that they could take the best of what Jet did and really infuse it into Walmart, and it could really propel them into the future. And of course, that could not go well as well. A lot of acquisitions are a struggle, but at least it seems like they're really embracing that. How do we bring that internet asset capability of how those people do business and meld it into our physical retail?
Well, I think the one thing that's true, Joe, is the future isn't what it used to be. Joe Jensen from Intel, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
David, thanks.
Pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If you've enjoyed this, there's plenty more. All you need to do to make sure that you get the latest videos when they're released is just push this subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel.